Good morning, Cardinals Nation. How's everybody doing today? Um, I am doing great. Thank you all for asking. My name is Brad, and this is the third episode of Cards and Coffee. If you haven't grabbed your cup of coffee yet, go ahead, grab your cup of coffee or your favorite beverage of whatever, and sit down. We'll have a talk. What we do in Cards and Coffee is this is a little more, it's a little less focused on the Cardinals' play and a little more focused on just other aspects of it. For example, the first episode we did, we talked about the sticky stuff. The second episode, we talked about Mike Schilt's press conference. And so we dive into aspects like that. I'll try not to keep you too terribly long, but I do want to have a good discussion with you. And as you can tell from the title, what we're going to talk about today is the human aspect of baseball. And the reason I want to talk about that is a couple days ago I was on Twitter and I just came across a thread by an announcer, by a sports announcer, a local sports announcer, and one of the things that kind of shocked me is how rude people are to people who do their job. Now, that part of the job, it's not just announcers. There's people behind the scenes, and there's all sorts of people that are involved in the business of baseball. And their job, especially if you work for a major broadcasting company or a small broadcasting company, whatever it may be, your job is to bring an enjoyable experience to the people. Now, when the on-field product isn't great, that makes the job more difficult. Actually, I would imagine it makes it a lot more difficult. It's really easy to get excited and get people excited about baseball whenever your baseball team is doing well. But, a couple weeks ago, that's when the Cardinals were in the midst of that slide. They'd been in the slide for quite a while, and things were looking really bleak. And so people get critical. And being critical is okay, but one of the things that I notice is that people go from critical of play to critical of person, and that's not okay, right? So, but this person on Twitter kind of went on a little bit of a tear, and they were, there was a tone in the tweets that says that, yes, I love what I'm doing, and I'm going to still bring this to you no matter what. Now, the other side of that is I got to see something really cool last night with the All-Star game. Now, I had softball games last night, and I couldn't tell you when the last time it was that I seen the All-Star game live, but I was watching some clips on Twitter, and I actually have one here for you. And what I want you guys to do is pay attention to, okay, I think this is Ozzie Albies here, but pay attention to this guy. This guy right here is Alex Reyes, and I want you guys to see and watch what goes on, especially right at the end. So I'll just let this play for you, I hope. Right here. So, did you see that? Now, I don't know if I had the audio set up or not for that, but that's irrelevant. There's just Joe Buck chatting with Ozzie Albies as he plays. But that's Alex Reyes, and if you know anything about Alex Reyes was a top-rated prospect for the Cardinals, and I wouldn't call him a prospect anymore because he's actually up with the big club, but he was a top-rated prospect. They expected him to be a critical part of this rotation, and he suffered through 2 or 3 major injury setbacks. And finally this year, so he had the injuries with his arm. He had an oblique injury that ended his season. And then last year there was the whole thing with the pandemic. And now this year, he finally gets a chance to kind of show his stuff. And look at him, he's in the All-Star game. So he throws 3 pitches and strikes out Zunino and gets to walk off. And as somebody myself who has struggled through an injury, who has pushed through an injury a couple different times, never to the extent that he has, mind you. I've never achieved any sort of major league status or anything like that. But to be injured, to know what, like especially the Tommy John surgery, that's a big surgery. I had ACL surgery. I've actually had 2 ACL surgeries. But to have surgery on your leg, and the moment that you injure yourself, you don't know what your future holds. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to make a full recovery. You're going to be able to come back. Now, technology has increased. It's a lot easier than it was. I mean, it used to be that if you tore your ACL or something like that, if you tore, what is it, your UCL in your arm for the Tommy John surgery, if you tore that ligament, you were done. That was it. That was the end of your career. Now, there was still, though, whenever you're in that moment of injury, and you could see it all over Acuna's face whenever he tore his ACL, you don't know what the future holds. Guys, I'm here to tell you there's no guarantee that Acuna is going to be the same player that he was before he hurt his knee, which is really sad for him. And I can completely relate to that, and I can completely relate to what Reyes has. But Reyes now, after going through all those injuries, he gets to come out. He strikes out the guy that he's supposed to face in the All-Star game. Reyes makes the All-Star game the first real chance he has at making an All-Star game. And so you can see that emotion all over his face as he's walking off. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about the human aspect of baseball. You know, I think a lot of times we get really caught up, you know, we're fans, right? Fans comes from the word fanatics. And fanatics are crazy, wild, irrational beings. And that's okay. I want that out of fans. I want crazy, wild, passionate people rooting for teams. I think that's part of what makes sports great. But in the midst of all of that, what I don't want people to do is to lose sight of that's not some sort of machine out there. That is a human being playing baseball. I would say also, if you look at like the sabermetrics and different advanced metrics, when we start getting into numbers, people stop being people and they start being numbers and statistics. And we've got to be very careful about that as fans. I personally try to be careful about that. If you guys watch my Twitter feed, I can get pretty snarky when the Cardinals aren't playing well. But the thing about it is this. I really, really, really try, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I try not to go personal on the attacks. If a pitcher walks a batter and walks in a run, that was a bad pitch. That was a bad series of pitches. That was a bad approach to that hitter. That was a bad lot of things. What that doesn't make that pitcher is a horrible person, a moron, or anything like that. And I said on Monday, I'm not trying to be rah-rah here, but what I am trying to say is kind of stay in your lane whenever you're making your criticisms, whenever you're doing that sort of thing, because you'll miss really the cool human side of baseball. I think that the human side of baseball is what makes baseball great. It's not launch angle. It's not exit velocity. It's not any of that. The human side of it is the story that is baseball. The story of this at-bat, you know, where Reyes faces Zunino, that is the cool part of this. I mean, the All-Star game really kind of means nothing. I guess, does it still count? I mean, is the American League now going to be the home team in the World Series? I don't know. But at the end of the day, this is the cool story. That Reyes overcomes injury, that he overcomes difficulty, that he climbs the hill of adversity to the highest level of play, to be recognized among his peers as one of the best in the business at what he does, and then to absolutely hose a guy who is also recognized by his peers and by the fans as one of the best in the business at what they do. That's baseball. That's sports. That's what we come for, right? The drama, the story, all of that. We don't come for, the numbers. I mean, maybe some of you guys come for the numbers, but really what makes baseball great is the human aspect. So the other part of it that I want to talk about too is how when we're watching a game, one of the cool interactions that I had in the Cards-Cubs series is on that rainy game, the second game, I think, the one that the Cardinals won. Andrea DeYoung, Paul DeYoung's mom, got to make the trip up. I'm not sure where they're from, but she made a road trip. She came to the game in Chicago. And in that game, DeYoung, I think, had a really good game. DeYoung hit a home run for sure. He might have hit more than one. But But she's like, just thought I'd make a road trip. Wasn't expecting this weather. She said it on Twitter, and it's a great game to go to. Get to see your son do that. So whenever you're interacting with players or on Twitter, and I'm telling you guys, if we as a fan base had more positive interactions with players, we'd have more interactions from players. But ultimately, what we end up with is a bunch of trolls out there ruining it for those of us that want to reach out. We have a great opportunity in a social media platform like Twitter that connects people. And we can connect people, and our attitudes and our hearts and our minds change how that interaction is. Twitter itself isn't bad. Twitter just reveals what we as people are made of. So whenever you're interacting with people on Twitter, be encouraging, be positive. If you want to be critical, be critical, but whenever there's a chance to be positive, be positive. Give credit where credit is due. I don't really have a whole lot of time and patience for people that just rip people apart personally. That's not what we're about. And sometimes it's the most frustrating thing to do is to be interacting with somebody, trying to have a good, genuine conversation, and all they've got for you is ad hominem attacks. If you guys don't know what ad hominem attacks is this when you're in a debate and somebody attacks the debater, not the idea that the debater is presenting. And in baseball, it's the same thing. If Paul DeJong has a bad at bat, he had a bad at bat, but that doesn't make Paul DeJong a horrible person. He's not a moron. He's not any of those things. He just had a bad at bat. Sometimes he has a lot of bad at bats. It happens. Same thing goes for broadcasters. This is what was so cool about that interaction that I had with that broadcaster. That he's a broadcaster, and he was talking about his experience during the pandemic and what he had to go through. And it wasn't that different from what my experience was and what I had to go through. We have this idea in our heads that these people that are on TV or that are on the radio have just this completely different life than what we do. And that's not necessarily the case. At the end of the day, you strip everything away, and we're people. We're human beings, and we have feelings, and we have the same struggles. And I know my pastor has said before that behind every face there's a hurt, and really, if you want to see that hurt, you just have to look hard enough, and you'll see it. So, what I'm pleading with you guys to do as Cardinals fans, we are I believe we're the best fans in baseball, and I don't mean that in some sort of arrogant way. I think that St. Louis has a really good fan base, a really intelligent fan base, a really smart fan base. I really like following a lot of you guys on Twitter. I could give a couple shout outs here to like Lauren Bundy. She is a great follow on Twitter. If you don't follow her, give her a follow. She's just so up and down and with the game. But you know what the thing is she never goes personal on players. But I like following a bunch of you guys on Twitter, and a lot of you guys are a lot of, really good stuff. But, anytime I come across something, and it's usually in the comments, and it's in the comments, and it's from people who won't put their real name and their real face on their Twitter account. They then go in hard. They go in, they go for the troll. And I don't want that from us. So as I would challenge us as Cardinals fans, as Cardinals nation, as the best fans in baseball to prove it. Let's live up to that reputation. We cheer for appropriate moments. We groan for appropriate moments. But we keep our focus on baseball and off of the baseball player as far as insults and stuff like that goes. And there is this aspect of baseball that is business, and I guess that's the hard part about being a baseball player, because more than most jobs, I would imagine that there's a whole lot of camaraderie that goes into playing. You join a team, you've been with an organization. Alex Reyes is a perfect example. He's been with an organization his whole career. He's never not been a Cardinal. Nolan Arenado is a great example. Never was not a Rocky, and so he wanted to do that. Yadier Molina, always a Cardinal. You build a relationship with players, with coaches, with staff. There's people that work on the field that you get to see. You build these relationships, and then you travel across the country in a grueling 162 game season, and you have a unique interaction with other people who don't really understand that had they not done it. And so you build those relationships, and then trade deadline rolls around, and they're like, okay, well, we had a chance to get better, and to get better, we had to get rid of you. So now you are going to a completely different city. Pack it up, get on. There's a business of baseball. Your contract goes with you. The money stays the same, but then everything changes. That's a very interesting thing to me, and I think that that's something that we need to keep in mind as we're watching these games. So let's see here. I would say, as I'm getting ready to wrap this up, I don't want to stay too terribly long because I got a lot to do today, but when you're watching the game, put that's a person in the back of your head. Never lose sight of that. Never lose hold of that. Keep that in the back of your head, and remember that whenever they walk the bases loaded and then walk a run home. Remember that whenever they plunk a batter. Remember that whenever they look at 3 straight pitches while the bases are loaded and strike out and end the inning. Remember that that's a person. Go after the at-bat. Go after the approach. Go after all of that. Don't go after the person. Be better than that. Rise above that. And that's what intelligent baseball people do. And if we're going to be the best fans in baseball, then we need to be the most intelligent fans of baseball. And if we're going to be the most intelligent fans in baseball, we need to focus on the baseball and not on the person. But on the flip side of that, whenever there's a great moment like Alex Reyes in the All-Star game, celebrate it. I believe he's at Alex Reyes 67 or something like that. If you search him on Twitter, he's on there. Just send him a message. Tell him that was awesome. That was amazing to see and how proud you are of him. Tell him that, because I promise you he'll see it. And if we flood his inbox with positive interactions, maybe he won't interact with us, but he'll see it and it'll raise his day. And honestly, let's be serious, guys. When you have a chance to make or break somebody's day, it's always more rewarding to make somebody's day than it is to break it. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll be back next week with something. Aaron should be back and healthy again. He had lost his voice, and he didn't want to come on air and croak around. So before I go, what I want to do is I want to hit up the socials. You can follow me on Twitter at RangeBrad. I would love to interact with you. I'd love to discuss this more on the other side of it. You can follow Aaron on Twitter at AaronMSTL. Great follow, great baseball mind. You want to talk Cardinals baseball, you want to get into the numbers, you want to look at some stuff that people didn't catch, Aaron is your guy. Check him out. You can also follow our Mutual Suspects account at mutual_suspects. It's a great time to watch, or it's a great account to watch that is solely focused on baseball. Aaron, you might get a little disc golf. Me, you're going to get a whole lot of everything because I'm very active on Twitter. But the Mutual Suspects is solely focused on Cardinals baseball and baseball in general. So give us a follow there. Last show on Facebook, we reached 500 subscribers. We had, which is really cool to me. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that. We had 500 subscribers, 500 likes on Facebook. So you can find us at facebook.com/mutual suspects. Give us a like if you like the show. Give us a like. If you don't like the show, just please give us a like. And then finally, we're also on Twitter, and not on Twitter, on YouTube. And I haven't created a banner for that yet, and I'm still frustrated with myself. But if you just search on YouTube, if you just search the Mutual Suspects on YouTube, you should be able to find the channel. Go over to that channel, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you get an alert. We should be live. Pretty much what we gun for is every Monday at around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then every Wednesday at 9 a.m. with Cards and Coffee. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great day. Go knock it out of the park. Make your bosses proud, or if you're the boss, make your customers proud. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.